Welcome back to the bench. In this episode, I start to work on the train wheel bridge and trying to finalize the movement of my first watch.
Now let me introduce to y'all, it's the one son of a musician, refuse to fall. Got the sun shining December when the blues be strong, cause I choose to be whatever, be the boom like mom.
Just before I start getting into the making of the train wheel bridge, I just want to say thank you for everyone who commented on my last video about the barrel bridge dilemma that I was having, and it was clear by the comments that people love chatons, and I love gold chatons in a watch movement. I think they look amazing, and for me, I feel though if I'm making watches that the gold chatons would be in a movement that I made maybe 90% of the components for. So I feel like for this watch in itself, I don't want to go down the route of putting chatons, although if the jewel that I ordered doesn't work, that's probably the next step that I'm going to go down to get the second wheel functioning within the watch. Just like the barrel bridge, the train wheel bridge, I need to cut out from the plate that I made and then file it into its basic shape, I would call it. So let's get into it. Now the train wheel bridge is in a basic shape that I think is good enough to start to put the jewels in, and only after that the jewels are in that I'm going to work on getting its final shape down before I can actually start decorating the bridges. So now it's time to get the jeweling tool out, ream the holes, countersink the oil cups, press the jewels in and test it out. But before I ream any of the holes, I'm just going to double check and measure the jewel sizes so I can select the corresponding reamer, because there's only a difference of 0.01 millimeters, which is 1/100th of a millimeter difference in size between the reamer and the outside diameter of the jewel. The next step is to chamfer the jewel holes. Now, I haven't inserted the jewels, so I don't know how far up the plate it is, and therefore the depth to chamfer is currently unknown. But because I'm going to remove these jewels for final finishing on the surface of the plate and the chamfering of the holes, I'm going to chamfer it but not too deep. And that way when I come to final finishing, I can mark the depth of the jewel. Once they're all pushed out, I can chamfer the holes to the correct depth, then polish them up really nice and provide a nice finish on the surface of the plate. Now the chamfering's done, it's time to press these jewels in. With the ETA 6489 movement, the jewels are pressed flush with the recesses at the back. So that's what I'm going to do with the jeweling tool. And once all the jewels are in for the train wheel bridge, I'll be able to determine if the holes were centered accurately enough so that it doesn't cause excessive binding between the gear teeth, or they're not too far apart. There's only a couple hundredths of a millimeter there is for play, so the tolerances are quite tight. There's two very important things when it comes to wheels in watches. I'm going to draw it out because I think it's a bit easier to explain that way. There's two critical elements of a watch wheel, and that is side shake and end shake. So the blue represents the two watch plates, the red indicate the jewels in those plates, and the green is the wheel, the watch wheel, and as you can see there's the pivots that go through the jewels here. Now side shake is the ability of this wheel to move laterally within the watch plate. This is essential because you don't want the pivots in these holes to be super tight, because it just creates excessive friction. It will lead to excessive wear. Then again, you don't want too much side shake, because then there's too much free play. The gears won't mesh properly. It will cause issues with power distribution, timing, etc. For me, side shake is super important because I made one of the top plates on an original plate, and the pivot diameter is only 0.02 of a millimeter smaller than the jewel hole. So if these holes aren't aligned correctly and the wheel is on a slight angle, then I'm going to have serious issues. So I'm not going to redraw this really bad diagram because it's terrible, and I'm just going to draw another one. It'll probably be even worse. But end shake is the ability for a watch wheel to move vertically between the two watch plates. So you do want end shake to be present within the watch. Obviously it has to be minimal. This can be adjusted to a certain extent. Obviously we can't have the jewel sitting too high so the pivot doesn't poke through the end of the jewel. That can cause issues within the watch itself. And so that's one thing that I'm going to do with the jeweling tool. So I'm going to test each wheel individually to ensure that there is end shake and side shake present. Then I'm going to assemble the train wheel bridge with all the wheels and see how they interact with each other, and determine any issues that are present. As I ream the holes this way, from the back of the plate, I'm also going to press the jewel in the same way. If I need to adjust the end shake of the stone and move it down, I'm going to use the concave pushers and just slightly push it down from the top and adjust it to ensure that there's adequate end shake. And there it is. As you can see, the train wheel of my movement is working quite well. I'm very happy with that. It even works with a blow of air on the escape, considering that the parts are pretty dirty. I think they're covered with, all types of machine oil and dirt everywhere around here. So I don't want to do too much testing without a clean movement, but I'm very happy with that. Probably the only slight thing that I will niggle at is my depthing of the escape wheel recess in the plate was a fraction too deep. Nothing that's going to affect the performance, I believe, of the watch. But next time when making these, I'm just going to use a better method for depthing in the lathe and just nail the dimensions and get them spot on. I'm very happy. I'm going to end this video here. Thank you again for tuning in. I hope it was of some value to you, and I hope to see you in the next episode.